So, today we're going to dive into the life of a true legend. I'm not talking about a person, but an animal who became a global icon, not just for his raw power, but for his incredible story. We are talking about the one and only lion known as Scarface.
It all starts out pretty simply, really. This is the story of a lion
who didn't just live, but fought, survived, and ruled, absolutely, like a king.
To really get who Scarface was, you have to start with his most defining feature, the one thing that made him an icon all over the world. So let's get the stats down. He was born way back in 2007, and he lived all the way until 2021. Now, 14 years might not sound like a lot to us, but for a male lion in the wild, that is ancient. And of course, there's the famous scar over his eye, which we'll get to. It gave him this rugged, battle-hardened look that honestly made him a rock star for wildlife photographers and a symbol of the wild spirit of Kenya's Maasai Mara.
But here's the thing you got to remember about the lion world. No king rules alone. Not for long, anyway. His climb to the top wasn't a solo act. It was built on the back of a powerful, legendary brotherhood.
Scarface was part of one of the most dominant coalitions in the history of the Mara, the Four Musketeers. I mean, what a name, right? It was him and his brothers, Sikio, Marani, and Hunter. This alliance was basically built for one purpose: to take over and to dominate.
And that number 4, that's the key. This wasn't just a pack. It was a strategic unit. Together, these 4 brothers were more than a match for pretty much any rival lions that were foolish enough to challenge them.
And their success? It was just unprecedented. They held on to their territory for almost a decade. To give you some perspective, most male lion coalitions, they're lucky if they last 2 or 3 years before getting overthrown. 10 years is an empire. And a reign that long provides incredible stability for the whole area, you know? It cuts down on the constant bloody takeovers where new males come in and kill all the cubs.
And what a kingdom it was. They controlled a staggering 400 square kilometers of land. That included the super prestigious Marsh Pride territory. If you've ever seen the BBC's Big Cat Diary, you know exactly how valuable that piece of real estate is. They weren't just lions. They were landlords of this huge, formidable domain.
But look, holding a throne for that long is not easy. It takes more than just strength. It takes an almost unbelievable amount of toughness, and his life was just a constant testament to that resilience.
Which brings us right back to that central mystery, the origin of his name and his whole legend. So how did he get that famous scar? Well, the truth is, it's kind of shrouded in myth. One story says it came from a classic, brutal lion-on-lion fight for territory back in 2011. But there's another, more complicated story that suggests he was actually speared by a Maasai herder while defending his land. It's a pretty stark reminder of that clash between wildlife and the human world. Either way, that injury became his brand. And that scar was just one of his many, many battle wounds. I mean, this guy survived another spearing that actually needed vets to come in and help him. He fought off hippos and crocodiles down by the river. He lived with a permanent limp from countless brawls. And yet, none of it ever seemed to break his spirit. He always carried himself with this incredible swagger.
But every reign has to come to an end. But unlike most kings of the Mara, Scarface's end, it wasn't violent. It wasn't tragic. It was, well, almost poetic. This was his final journey home.
So 14 years old, he's frail, he's thin, and it's almost like he knew his time was up. So he does something remarkable. He starts walking. For nearly 25 kilometers, he makes this long pilgrimage back to the exact area where he was born. And there, on June 11th, 2021, he just laid down and died, peacefully from natural causes. For a warrior of the wild, that is a truly rare and dignified end.
So, what does a king like that leave behind? Well, his story didn't end with his final breath. He forged a legacy that is absolutely unbroken.
The numbers alone tell you just how exceptional he was. A 14-year lifespan, when the average is closer to 8 or 10. A 400 square kilometer kingdom. And his genetic legacy is so strong that even today, his genes are considered the gold standard in the Maasai Mara. Many of the dominant lions out there right now are his direct descendants. He truly, truly earned the title of the King.
A photographer captured his whole essence perfectly with this quote. He didn't just survive the wild, he commanded it. To die of natural causes in a world where everything is trying to kill you is perhaps the ultimate victory for a lion. And that's what it was, the final quiet triumph of an absolutely incredible life.
And so that leaves us with this one final thought. Scarface's epic story is over.
But the great cycle of life in the Mara just keeps on turning. A throne now sits empty. The king is gone. But who will carry the crown?